There are thousands of Ninja Creami recipes, but nearly all of the low-calorie or high-protein ones use some sort of protein powder. Today, that changes. I'm testing 4 different recipes that use no protein powder and no sugar-free Jello mix. But do they taste good? Let's find out. Starting with our quickest one to prepare because it's literally only 1 ingredient. This Premier Protein chocolate peanut butter shake. For this one, all we need is one of our containers, and then I'm gonna shake this shake up, open it up, and pour it into here, all the way up to that max fill line if it'll let us. And 1 shake fills it about 2/3 of the way, which is totally fine. We'll get the lid on this, and it's time to throw it in our freezer. Now, all of these recipes need to freeze overnight, so for now, let's make recipe number 2. And for recipe 2, we're making a blueberry almond cream ice cream. I'm starting with this almond milk Greek yogurt, and I'm putting in 1 cup of it, which should be about 225 grams or so. And that is close enough. And then the only other ingredient is blueberries. I'm using frozen blueberries, but you could get them fresh too. We're going with half a cup of them, which should be about 70 grams or so of blueberries. Now, I'm using an immersion blender to mix it all together before I freeze it. You probably could get away without doing it or blending it or just using a fork or something, but I find this easiest. And about 30 seconds of blending later, this is what our ice cream looks like. Now it's time for this one to go into the freezer too. And for our 3rd recipe, we're making a creamy coconut pineapple ice cream. Starting with half a can of pineapple chunks in their natural juice. And for the most part, I'm not super particular on the exact quantity of the ingredients because I don't think it matters too much. Next up, this coconut flavored Greek yogurt, and about 100 grams of this is gonna go into here. And then our 3rd and final ingredient for this one is just cream cheese. And I'm putting in about 2 tablespoons or so. Now, once again, I'm gonna just quickly blend this up. And as a pro tip for labeling these in your freezer, you can see I used to just write on the lids and write over it for each flavor, but I found these reusable labels right here that you can write on with Sharpie, and then to get the Sharpie off, you literally just use an eraser. I've used this exact label, which has nothing on it right now, over 25 times already. So we'll label this one, and it's going in the freezer with the other 3. And if you haven't caught the trend by now, our 4th and final recipe is gonna be 4 ingredients, and it's gonna be a strawberry cottage cheese ice cream. Starting with cottage cheese, I'm using a low-fat 2%. I'm gonna put in about 2 cups of it. Next up, about 1 cup of chopped fresh strawberries. You could also use frozen, just like our blueberry recipe. I might have too much cottage cheese in here. I might have to take out a little. We'll see when I blend it. And actually, I'm just gonna take some out now. Probably better with about 1 to 1.5 cups of cottage cheese if you have the regular size Ninja Creami. Next up, 3 tablespoons of honey. And my honey has crystallized quite a bit, but it's gonna be somewhere around 60 grams of it. And last up, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Just eyeball that. It's gonna give it a beautiful flavor. And as always, let's blend that up now. And with our 4th and final recipe done, I'll now see you guys in 24 hours for the taste test, which is obviously the most important part. It's now been 24 hours. It's time for the taste test we've all been waiting for. Now, 1 pro tip, you can see all this frost that's built up on the side of the container right here. If you put this straight into the Creami, it's gonna work, but on the side of the ice cream, you're gonna get these ice crystals. So what I like to do is run this under hot water for about 15 to 30 seconds. You'll actually see those crystals disappearing, and then it's ready to be spun. So starting with our first recipe, which is the peanut butter chocolate protein shake, into our first piece, the blade gets twisted on, it clips into the Creami, and I like to run them all under light ice cream. Now, typically after the first spin, they do need to be respun again. You'll see it's kind of flaky, and you see exactly that with this one. A lot of people will tell you to add more milk or whatever ingredients you used. I typically just respin it with nothing added, and it works just fine. Let's give that a shot with this one. I did actually have to add a little bit of liquid on this respin, which I typically don't have to do, but now our ice cream is fully ready. So let's do the taste test. The texture is a little bit thinner and not as creamy as many of the other creamies that I've made, but the flavor is actually really good. The chocolate peanut butter comes out really well. In terms of flavor, I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. Let's move on to recipe number 2 and see how that one tastes. 1 spin and respin later, and our ice cream is ready. This one has a little bit of a crumbly texture. I'm guessing it could have used a little more milk or some sort of fat content in it, but let's taste it. And my taste test agrees with exactly that. It kind of tastes more like almost like a snow cone with its texture. It's a little bit of like an icy, grainy sort of texture, but honestly, the flavor itself is really good. Ignoring the texture, because I think with more milk or more yogurt added to this, you could make it better. The flavor itself is a 9 out of 10. And now on to recipe number 3, our coconut pineapple, which is really soft and didn't even require a respin. But how does it taste? Oh yeah, this is by far the best one so far. The texture is perfectly creamy. Both the pineapple and coconut flavors are nice and subtle but play together really well. I could easily eat this entire pint, so I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 on flavor. And now for recipe number 4, our final taste test, which once again, looks like it has a really good and soft texture. Our strawberry cottage cheese ice cream, the taste test. This one's pretty good, but one of the ingredients in here doesn't really blend with the flavor super well. I think it's the honey throwing this off for me, surprisingly. I still really like it, but it's definitely not the best of all of them. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10 for flavor. Now don't forget to subscribe and like. This helps support the channel a ton and I really appreciate it. And if you wanna see more creamy recipes, check them out right here.